Well, hello everyone and welcome back to Classic Gamer 74. I'm your host Anthony Gamer.
And I'm Larry the Line.
And today we're going to be discussing video games that were based on TV shows. TV shows have been part of the American lexicon since the 50s.
Yeah, and even before that, they knew it was coming because it was, they had a thing of it, a prototype of it at the World's Fair. However, they didn't have any idea how much it would take off.
That's correct, Larry. Now, back when television first started, you had all kinds of cool shows, quiz shows, of course, the news, sports, and as time went on, sitcoms, they would show movies, and then, of course, we had those reality shows. Anyway, and in the 70s, video games became the in thing. So it was only a matter of time before the two great fads coincided together, and we had some great games that came out of it. So today we're going to discuss some of those games. Now, some of these TV shows and games went perfectly together. In other words, you could easily see a video game being made of these TV shows. Then you have some TV shows that you think, I just don't see it.
Yeah, but then you try the games and you're like, wow, I guess it did work out.
Yep, and we're going to have everything between the perfectly good TV shows that made video games, and then we're going to have some of those. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the games. Are you ready?
Oh, you know it. I'm always ready.
All right, let's get started. And our first TV show tie-in is Dallas.
Yeah, wow. I was really surprised when I found out they made this.
Oh, I was too. Now, if you're not familiar with the TV show Dallas, it was a nighttime drama, soap opera, that ran for many, many years, and it was about the Ewing family. And of course, in the early days of the show, everyone was wondering who shot JR. And then we found out it was the baby. Huh? Are you sure? Oh, okay. Well, excuse me. I have that. That was The Simpsons. Regardless, it was a show that ran for many seasons and had a very loyal fan base. Of course, the most well-known character was JR. But anyway, so without further ado, let's get into that game. All right, in the game Dallas Quest, you take on the role of an unnamed investigator. Now, Sue Ellen has sent you out on a quest that she wants you to find a map. This map will lead to a particular treasure that is down in South America in a village called Playa Peligro. Of course, unfortunately, good old JR, and I don't mean Jim Ross, has overheard you, and he is trying to stop you because he doesn't want Sue Ellen to be able to be free from herself. So he has some goons that are trying to beat you up. Overall, the game doesn't have a whole lot to do with the TV show other than the characters making their appearances. And it's quite similar to Death of the Caribbean or quest-type games where it's talk, look, see, and things like that. Overall, it's a pretty fun game, and the puzzle elements are really cool. So if you happen to be a fan of the TV show, you're really going to enjoy it, but that isn't a prerequisite. And next up, we have the Dukes of Hazzard. Now, this is one of about two prototypes that we're going to have on today's episode. And this was supposed to be released in 1983 for the Atari 2600.
Now, if you have even the slightest familiarity with the show, this game should be pretty self-explanatory. But for the few of you probably on this planet that have never heard of the Dukes of Hazzard, let me explain. The show is about a family called the Dukes who are always at odds with the law. The law being Boss Hogg and Roscoe Pete Coltrane, the sheriff. It's a pretty cool show with a lot of car chases and pretty women, and don't forget Daisy Duke. But anyway, in this game, you take on the Duke boys driving their car, which was a Dodge Charger called the General Lee, and you were trying to rescue your cousin Daisy Duke before Boss Hogg gets to her, and of course Roscoe Pico Coltrane is driving the squad car trying to stop you. This was one of two versions of the game. Unfortunately, it did not get released. More than likely, it was victim of the video game crash, but there were other versions of the game that were planned to be made for the ZX Spectrum, I believe, and the ColecoVision. And next up, we have Alf, the First Adventure. This was released by Box Office Video Games in 1988. Now, Alf was a popular TV show at the time about an alien who came from the planet Melmac and lived with the Tanners. In this game, you take on the role of Alf, and you are trying to collect pizzas, avoid cats, and avoid the man of the house, that being Willie. This show was extremely popular back in the 80s. I don't know if it's held up very well or not. I'm going to have to check that out. Yeah, I used to love that show myself. Well, I do anything that involves puppeteering. Oh, yeah. But regardless, really cool game, and one that if you were a fan of the show, you're going to enjoy. Many of you that grew up in the 70s and 80s are familiar with the show Happy Days. It was a show that took place in the 50s and surrounded the Cunningham family, who lived an idyllic life in Wisconsin, specifically in Milwaukee. The show had an all-star cast, which included Tom Bosley, Ron Howard, Pat Morita, among others. But the breakout star of the show was the character Arthur Fonzarelli, or the Fonz, who was played by Henry Winkler. The Fonz became so popular, in fact, that his likeness was put on just about everything from t-shirts, a guitar, toys, this action figure, you name it. Even a really cool compilation of 50s music, which Anthony has. Oh yeah, it's a great album. But did you know that they actually made a Fonzie video game? Here's a look at the original Game Machine. It was a motorcycle riding game that was produced by Sega. Unfortunately, it's one of those early arcade machines, and it can't be dumped. It's something to do with the CPU. As not being an electronics person, I'm not really sure how that works. Some of the people on Atari age would probably be able to explain it to you if you really want to know the details. And since I don't have any game footage to show you, I'm going to show you the next best thing, and that is a hack. Here's a mock-up label that I found for this particular hack. Well, I don't know if it's for this particular hack, but regardless, I found it online somewhere. Anyway, so a hacker by the name of Kurt Howe came up with a hack of the game Enduro. So let's check out the Fonz hack of Enduro. Alright, so as you can see, this is basically the Activision game Enduro, except for the sprites have been changed to look like people on motorcycles. Now, from the research I've done, this is pretty much what the Fonz game was like. Of course, most of us out there that are classic gamers love the game Enduro. Yeah, were you ever able to earn any of the patches? Honestly, I think I would have, but yeah, because I really love this game. But regardless, hopefully someday someone will find a way to be able to make a reproduction of the original game. But in the meantime, we have this. Alright, and next we have the A-Team. This is another prototype. Now, this has an interesting story because initially this was supposed to be released as a game called Saboteur, but they decided to hack their own game and make it so that it would have the characters from the popular TV show. Now, if you've never seen the show A-Team, the show is about a bunch of soldiers of fortune that are hired by people to do good things, rescue people, all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah, a lot of explosions, gunfire, and really cool characters like Mr. T became the mega star by playing B.A. Baracus. You had Howling Mad Murdoch, Face, and don't forget Hannibal. It was a great show back in the day. I think every boy and man I knew loved the show. Anyway, so they decided to jump on the A-Team popularity bandwagon and make this game. However, it didn't really work out that well, and therefore the game wasn't released. I think it was because of the collapse in game market, or because this game is just plain weird. There's 3 separate stages on this. You have the rocket construction site, where you're trying to stop these evil forces from destroying the world with a nuclear weapon. So you must help Mr. T and Murdoch stop the launch rocket for the warhead from being built. Okay, and the second one, you're at the warhead factory. Again, kind of the same thing. Wow, this is just so weird. Anyway, then you have the nuclear showdown where you're trying to stop it. Then you're fighting against copters. Anyway, so it didn't work out that well. Saboteur itself was just fine as it was. This was pretty much a cash grab, wasn't it? Yeah, but unfortunately it didn't work because neither game got released. Regardless, it is interesting to say the least, but, if you were a fan of the show, you might like it. I was a fan of the show, and it's okay. It's kind of a novelty game, but regardless, A-Team was a very popular show back then. I think they've made a couple movies about it since then, so if you like to play a game for nostalgic purposes, this is the one. And next up, we have Buck Rogers' Planet of Zoom by Sega from 1982. This is the arcade version. It was later ported out to several different game systems. I, of course, grew up on the 2600 version. In this game, you take on the role of our hero, Buck Rogers, as you are trying to fight against the forces of evil. You're flying between pillars. You're shooting the bad guys' ships. It's really a fun game. Buck Rogers started off as a comic strip and then went on to become a TV show in the late 70s and into the 80s. I'd have to honestly say it's kind of like the A-Team. Every kid I knew watched it. It was a really cool sci-fi show. Haven't watched it in years, but I really have a lot of great memories watching that show. Basically, it was about a man who, I think he fell asleep. I think that was it or something. He got put into some kind of comatose state, and he woke up in the 25th century. And it was just really neat. It was a cool show. The special effects were really pretty cool at the time. But again, it kind of jumped on the Star Wars craze, and overall it was a great show with a lot of fond memories. And I'm gonna see if it holds up here, and I'll let you guys know. But regardless, the games themselves are great, and this again is Buck Rogers' Planet of Zoom. And next up we have MASH. Now, I have discussed the 2600 version in a previous episode, and it's hard to really say if this game was based on the TV show or the movie. We can just assume this was the TV show or whichever. Anyway, the ColecoVision version, which you're looking at right here, was not released, so this was actually the third prototype in today's episode. Now, in this game, you take on the role of either Hawkeye Pierce or Trapper John, and you are going out with the chopper trying to pick up wounded soldiers and then bring them back to camp and try to remove the shrapnel from their body. It's a pretty cool game. Fans of the show will, of course, enjoy it. I recently have rediscovered the show and have been watching some of those reruns here and there. If you're not familiar with the show MASH, it was about a medical unit in the Korean War. Strangely enough, the show ran for several seasons and actually ran a lot longer than the Korean War did. This was the TV show that made Alan Alda a household name and a megastar. If you haven't checked the show out, it's full of a lot of laughs, silliness, but yet still it's about war. But they have a lot of humor and all kinds of fun antics. And regardless, the game itself is really cool, and it's just a shame that the ColecoVision version wasn't released. Why do you think that was? Well, I believe it was because at the time, 20th Century Fox games were getting out of the video game market temporarily, and I think this was just one of those games that didn't get released before that. There's also a prototype of a ColecoVision version of Porky's as well. And next up, we have Monty Python's Flying Circus from 1990 from Virgin Interactive. This game is interesting, to say the least. If you're a fan of Monty Python, you're going to love this game. Oh yeah, so in this game, you pretty much take on the role of that little character you used to see on the interstitials on the show. And it's like a platformer. It's all kinds of crazy stuff. It's just really a whole lot of fun. If you're not familiar with Monty Python's Flying Circus, it was a comedy troupe that started in the 60s. And they had a TV show that ran for many years. They made some spin-off movies. Some of the people that were involved with that show were Eric Idle, John Cleese, Terry Gilliam, among others. It was a really funny, crazy show and really kind of showed you what British comedy was all about. Yep. There also were other games too, like the Holy Grail, which I will discuss in another episode, but any Python fan has got to try this because you will love it. I know we did. And our final game for today is Home Improvement from 1994 by Absolute Entertainment, released for the Super Nintendo. In this game, you take on the role of Tim the Toolman, whose new line of tools have been stolen by a rival, and he must go to different sets of different movies and TV shows and find those tools. And the only thing at your disposal are your own tools. Kind of a cool game if you were a fan of the show, and even if you're not, it's still a lot of fun. The show was about a tool guy named Tim that was played, of course, by Tim Allen. And in that show, it talked about his family and some of the other people that he worked with. He had his own TV show, so it was a show within a show, actually. And in this game, you are taking on his role. Unfortunately, one thing that was interesting when you actually purchased the game is that when you looked at the instructions, it would say, real men don't need instructions. So a lot of it you kind of had to learn on the go. Typical Super Nintendo platformer. Really not a bad game. Kind of a novelty game in itself. But, if you were into platformer games and you were a Super Nintendo person, you're going to love it. In our next episode, we will be bringing our unit on the Intellivision to a close, as we will discuss prototypes for the Intellivision.
So as you can see, there have been some pretty cool games that were based on TV shows. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We've got many more to come as time goes on. As a matter of fact, Red was talking to me the other day. What about? He wants to do a top 10 TV shows, video games based on TV shows. Oh, that'd be cool. And he also suggested we should make a list of TV shows that would have made great video games. Oh, okay. What? His taste is sometimes questionable. Well, that's true, but regardless. Well, that brings us to the end of another exciting episode of Classic Gamer 74. I really hope you all enjoyed it. We really enjoyed bringing it to you. If you did, you know what to do. Give us a great big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to click that little bell icon down there so you'll be notified when I upload new episodes. And connect with me on my various social media platforms. I also want to take this time to make a quick announcement. I apologize for the lack of videos that have been coming out lately. Unfortunately, besides also being back teaching full-time, I'm also in graduate school, so the episodes are going to come less often. But thank you for sticking by, and I appreciate all the new subscribers. It's always great to see new subscribers to join the Classic Gamer 74 family. And what are you doing? Have you noticed something? Notice what? That bendy plush keeps moving around the display case. I think you're hallucinating. Okay. Anyway, also a quick announcement. I have started a Patreon page. So, the link will be in the description below. Please check it out. I'm going to have some cool extra stuff on there, no matter what tier you join as. And I'm going to have some cool videos that are too hot for YouTube, including more videos with the darkness and banned video games and some adult games. So please, check us out on Patreon and help us out. It'd be most appreciated. Well, until next time, I'm Anthony Gamer.
And I'm Larry the Lion.
And we will see you on the next episode. Until then, be strong, be safe, be happy, be healthy, and above all, take care of each other, be kind to each other, and stop hate of all kinds. See you soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone. I'm telling you, that thing's moving.
Please. You've been playing that game too long.
Okay, you say so.